So, I'm not going to continue on this SNP bashing. Like I say, there's far more election stuff and whatnot going on, but I think this is a good example of the SNP isn't as great as very often I think they make themselves out to be. And this is, I think, a perfect example. And this comes from the American New Statesman. So the SNP's blinkered approach to Scotland's educational crisis is unsustainable. The party must conduct a serious and honest conversation about the curriculum of excellence and its unintended consequences. For Nicola Sturgeon, education is the crisis that is not going to go away. In part, this is because she pledged that improving the performance of Scotland's schools would be her top priority as First Minister. But it's also because each new piece of data seems to present a fresh challenge to her pledge. Because education experts are starting to rebel, and because political opponents sense blood, Sturgeon is caught in something of a Python squeeze. She and her Education Secretary, John Sweeney, are not helping themselves. They refuse to accept there is a problem and insist that they will carry on with their plans despite the warning lights flashing all around them. Few neutrals doubt the First Minister's good intentions. She's fond of saying that as a former state school pupil, she is determined to give comprehensive kids the best possible chance in life. She said, if anyone decides to be a block to making sure that we've got the best education system, then they should be moved out of the way, she has said. I'll be confrontational with anybody if it's about improving the educational experiences of kids and that come from the kinds of communities that I grew up in. I don't want to be in a lottery in life as to whether you get the chances to do or to do not. So, unfortunately, the facts are stubbornly refusing to confirm that to her rhetoric. The curriculum of excellence in which she underpins the SNP's approach to education is plainly failing to have a positive impact that was intended. The latest blow came this week when Professor Jim Scott of Dundee University issued a report claiming that alienating among fourth-year pupils has attainment among fourth-year pupils has dropped by at least a third in key attainment areas since the CFE, which is again Certificate of Excellence, was introduced in 2013. He has also found a number of higher passes than in the fifth year of the secondary had fallen by about 10% in the past 4 years. And adding insult to injury, the professor said that if the consequences of the CFE had been known when it was first originated in 2006, the project would have been delayed or even cancelled. Again, the intention was good and largely backed across the political spectrum at the time, but the CEF's overarching goals are to provide young Scots with the knowledge and skills and attributes needed for life in the 21st century. But in the delivery and detail, the government has betrayed the concept. Professor Scott is not the only educationist to voice concern about the direction of travel. There has also been unexpected reduction in the number of Nat 5s, that's the equivalent of GCSEs, being sat by state school pupils. The majority of schools now allow them to sit 5 or 6, when it was previously 8. This is because pupils are expected to follow a broad general curriculum until the end of third year of secondary school, selecting exam subjects only in the fourth year. Previously, specialisation would have been given in year 3. Less classes and less study time inevitably means fewer exams. Parents were not made aware of this, and they seem unlikely to have approved if they had been. Things have become so bad that some of the better state schools are now ignore the government's delicat and allow the pupils to specialise from year 3. Shortly after taking over as First Minister, Sturgeon insisted that she needed better data to track school performance. But the Scottish Government has withdrawn from 2 of the 3 international comparative studies, and this is a common choice for to the choice of metric. So how many pupils are passing one higher? It's ridiculed by educationalists. Higher in what? What opportunities does a single hire actually open up? One senior figure said to me this week, it looks like they are scared of the data and want to control it to a point where we learn nothing useful. It's a gross politicalization of our education system. Experts also point to the government closing down the Scottish Survey of Literacy and Numeracy and replacing it with what they say is a meaningless national testing, and point to shift away from STEM languages and schools and social subjects in the 4th and 5th years of secondary school. On the 3rd of December, the PISA will publish its yearly international comparison for educational performance in reading, maths, and science. This is the only international survey that still includes Scotland. The last data in 2016 showed that Scotland's score across all three categories had declined for the first time since tests began in 2000. None of the three areas were given an above average rating. Sweeney said that then this reform would address this, but if the new findings are gloomy, there will be nowhere for the SNP to hide. Surgeon is feeling the heat. At First Minister's questions this week, she was accused of following the mantra of dilemma when it came to her education policies. She insists that the high percentage of young people are leaving schools with qualifications than before. But which qualifications and what are their value? Both Brexit and the general election ensure limited coverage of the Holyrood policy areas at the moment, and there's always the indie ref card to play when the headlines get too negative. But the SNP's blinkered approach on education is becoming unsustainable. Before too long, there will have to be serious and honest conversations about the curriculum for excellence and its unintended consequences. There will have to be a pause for reflection and rehabilitation. Better that than the First Minister takes the choice herself than this is seen to be forced into it. So that's what's going on with Scotland's education. But by all means, I don't mean to bash overly the SNP. I'm not going to start doing that on this channel. Like I say, there's far more important stuff for us to talk about. But I think sometimes it's worth, shall we say, talking about and bringing people into a reality of a situation, because sometimes some people seem to live in a bubble, and that hurts a lot of people, as you can see here.